I'm Dorie, and I am the mother of 3 beautiful daughters and married to my husband for 17 years. And I live in Crossville, Tennessee. I work at the hospital there, and that's about it. A year ago, shortly after my 40th birthday, I was with my mother, who was in the process of battling lung cancer. And she and I were in one of the hospital rooms in the imaging center. And we were in the waiting room, and you had a perfect view of the mammogram machines. And I had never had a mammogram. I was terrified of them. And I mentioned this to my mom. And I told her, I said, those machines are so intimidating. I don't ever want to have to do that. And she got mad at me, and she said, are you kidding me? You've never had one of those? She gave me the whole lecture, young lady, you better get one of those. It's important. And I just told her, no way. It was just too scary. And she said, well, you don't be a chicken. You have to do this. And I thought about that. And shortly after is when I turned 40 years old. And I had just started my job at the hospital as a secretary. And on the screen flashed the advertisement for free mammograms. And I didn't have insurance, and that wouldn't have taken place for a few months. And they flashed the advertisement for the free mammograms through the Komen Foundation. And my mom's words just kept ringing in my ears. And so I went ahead and scheduled an appointment, and one of the minimum requirements was you had to be 40 years old, and I had just turned 40. So I scheduled it so that I could reassure my mother, who wasn't doing well at all, that yes, Mom, I did what you said and I had this done, to ease her mind. And unfortunately, they discovered a lump and wanted to come back and do a biopsy and go through all of the testing after that. And I was terrified. Number one, I was losing my mother. Number two, I didn't have insurance. I couldn't afford it. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And they advised me that there was a program that would help me, and I went through the steps. I went to the health department and talked to a lovely lady named Candace, who walked me through it. And I did not have to pay for it. It was a blessing, really. And I lost my mother, and that was worse. And at the same time, I was dealing with this. And there was so much support from the Reach to Recovery ladies at the hospital. They just really helped me out. And it was just really, really, really scary. Because like I said, I didn't know how I was going to do this. I'm the baby in the family. And, you know, my mother had just passed away, and I was the baby at 40 years old. But I looked at my baby, who was at that point 10 years old, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. And so it was advised that I have a mastectomy. I had the double mastectomy, and I was very, very fortunate, because when all was said and done, they said I had caught it right on time. If I had waited any longer, I would have had to have gone through the chemotherapy and radiation, and there's no telling where that would have led to. But because I caught it in time, and because they were able to get to it in time, my life was saved, period. Whether it be saved from death or from further treatment, which would have been miserable, which a lot of people have to go through, I was very, very lucky. And I contributed all to this wonderful program, because had that program not been there, I wouldn't have had it done. I had never been to the health department before. I didn't have a need. Up until that point, I had never had anything wrong with me. Never. I wasn't sick. I didn't feel bad. I would never have known. I think through advertisement and awareness, other women need to know about it. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't know what to think at all. I just thought that it was a mistake, and I just figured I would have another mammogram and that would be it, and they would decide that it was something that wasn't anything to worry about, because I hadn't had any symptoms or reason to think that there was anything wrong. When they advised me of the help, and I went to the health department, all of my options were laid out for me. There was a choice of physicians, a choice of surgeons. treatment steps, who I could talk to, phone numbers, websites. They gave me all the information that I needed. And I acted quickly because fear is a great motivator. And I did look things up on the website. I did look through the surgeons. I felt comfortable with a surgeon that I knew in Crossville. I chose to go that route. I could have gone to the Comprehensive Breast Center in Knoxville, but that was a driving distance and I wasn't familiar with it, and I just didn't feel comfortable. So I chose Dr. Fox in Crossville, who works with this program, and he's wonderful. And he and his nurse talked to me, talked to my husband. They just went over everything with me. And again, the Reach to Recovery ladies at the hospital and the patient navigator, they had volunteers that came to talk to me that had been through this before. And there was a couple of times at work, I continued working through all of this, and I just, kept myself busy, and there was a couple of times I broke down at work, and they were there in seconds and got me through it. A lot of prayer, a lot of support. I made friends from every single department. It's incredible how many resources are available if you know where to look. My biggest support system was my husband and my daughters. My oldest daughter was 15 at the time. My second daughter was 12, and then my 10-year-old. And they were fantastic. My husband, wonderful support, and my girls. You can't be afraid, women cannot be afraid to have this done. The mammogram was the old style mammogram where you have to go in that big machine. It didn't hurt. I've always been told how painful it is and how embarrassing it is and how humiliating it is and frightening it is. It was none of those things. The technicians were just lovely people. It was all ladies. It was very routine. It did not hurt one bit. All the things I was afraid of was just silly fear. It was quick, it was simple, it was easy. There was nothing to be afraid of. Wow. And now that they have the digital mammogram machines that are so sophisticated, they can catch everything, anything and everything. I mean, it's really a good piece of equipment, for lack of another word. It's much better now and simpler and private, and there's no embarrassment, there's no reason to be afraid at all. This is how quick it was. February 24th, I had the first free mammogram, and April 4th was when I had my surgery. It was that fast. I mean, they didn't waste any time at all. They didn't put me off. It was just handled that quickly. It was really a blessing. A 100% change. When they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, it's the truth. I would put my girls up against any situation and they would be able to handle it. It strengthened the entire family. It strengthened our family bond. It really proved to everyone in my family what we're made of. I mean, it was very trying. It wasn't easy. There's been times where everybody was at each other's throats and nerves and chaos and trying to be brave, trying to be strong, but we've learned how to deal with other problems, as a family. We've learned to talk things out. We've learned to ask for help when we need help. That's a very hard lesson to learn. But we've come through, and it's made us stronger. It's made me appreciate life so much more. When I least expect it, I'll start crying. Like one of my daughters, my oldest daughter, she's an artist. She wants to be an artist, and she's fantastic. And she won an art competition a couple of months ago here in Cookeville. And I just sat there thinking, my goodness, here I am enjoying my daughter's success. I can be here to appreciate these moments. When my youngest daughter made the basketball team, I was there. I was so proud of her. I mean, life moments like that you take for granted. When my other daughter needed help with something and her problems and her struggles, I was there to advise her. And I thought, who would have helped her had I not been here? You know, my husband and I take everything very seriously. And we've learned that, you know, we're not just in love with our physical selves, we're in love with who we are as people, as individuals. We've grown closer, you know. I know that it can be intimidating going through something like this, but we've really become closer as a family, stronger, able to deal with things as they come. Our faith has grown incredibly. It's really benefited us. So through the clouds we have found a silver lining, and it has rained pretty hard. It's a completely new perspective. You do learn to appreciate everything. I have appreciated sunrises, I have appreciated sunsets. I have actually gone out, and I've never had a bucket list. I've always had a to-do list since I was a little girl. These are the things I want to do. And I've checked off several things. I've been to the East Coast and seen a beautiful sunrise, and I have grown my vegetable garden. I have all the pets that I want to have. I've not been afraid to take chances. I have been more spontaneous. You don't have to plan everything. Sometimes it's fun just to fly off the cuff. And I've tried to talk to people that I can that are going through it. I have talked to several people, and just to let them know that it happens. It's just a little speed bump in life, and you pick yourself up and you move on. I've had to learn to do that through other experiences beside this. Until you have been tested, you don't know what kind of strength you have. You don't know how you're going to respond until you have to go through it. I never paid attention to breast cancer until I had to go through it. I've done Relay for Life. I've contributed to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. I've, you know, never really paid that much attention because it really never applied to me. And that's a very selfish, you know, outlook. But unfortunately, as human beings, until you've actually gone through something, you don't know how serious it is.
Right.
You don't know until you've gone through it. You know, my mom had lung cancer, and we lost her through my ordeal.
Right.
She passed away on March 3rd. My surgery was April 4th. She never knew what I was going through. At that point, she did not know. She was sick, so she never knew what I was going through.
Right.
I didn't burden the rest of my family with it because they were dealing with my mom. So I relied on my husband and my girls to get me through it. And they did. And the people at work. But like I said, you don't know what you're made of until you have to rely on it. You have to choose to look for the good. I've always felt that. If you look for the bad, you're going to find it. But if you look for the good, you're going to find that too. First and foremost, my husband has been the greatest support, and he was the hardest person to tell. Believe it or not, he's not just my husband, he's my best friend, and my very best friend. He knows me better than anybody on this planet. And he's always been my strength. He's always been my motivator and go, go, go. And believe it or not, he was the hardest person to tell. I was so afraid that he would just, you know, break down and, oh no, and be afraid, because it's something that made me face my mortality because I didn't know what to expect. And I thought, you know, I could die from this. I could go through what my mother just went through. And watching somebody go through it and not survive is, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. There is nobody I would wish something like that on. It's horrible. And so I thought to myself, I could be facing this very thing. And it scared me, and I didn't want to scare him, but he ended up being right there. He was with me through every little bit of it, every bit of it, before and after. My girls were right there with me, before and after. We sat down, we had a talk, and I explained what was going on. And I tried to keep them away from what my mother was going through. I didn't want them to see that. And so they didn't have any preconceived idea of what I could be faced with. I thank God every single day that I caught it in time and that I did not go through what my mother went through. And that my girls didn't have to see me go through that. But they were so supportive. They were so understanding. They were so helpful. They rearranged their schedules. They rearranged their sports, their clubs, their activities. They never complained, not one time, when I just didn't feel like making dinner. And they did. They just really came through for me. They never complained one bit. And, you know, we talk so much more now, and we just get so much more out of it. But I also have to say that everybody that I work with, not just because it's at the hospital, but because they were there and they listened to me and they brought me notes. They would just give me little bits of encouragement, and it was just fantastic. It was wonderful. So besides my family, it was the people that I work with, my employers, my boss. He is just incredible. I mean, no questions asked, just right there through the whole thing. I could have become very depressed. I could have fallen and I could have cried and I could have felt sorry for myself. But at work, they kept me busy. They kept giving me things to do. Here, try this. Here, go here. We need this. We need that. And, you know, a lot of people said, how are you doing this? Why are they doing this to you? And I said, because I need it. And it got me through it. And they understood that. It's good to keep busy and stay on track and keep a routine going and help other people. And to take what you've gone through to help somebody else. It's really been so healing for me to be able to take what I've been through and use it for somebody else's benefit. It's impossible to get sad and feel sorry for yourself when you're helping somebody else. And I want to take this experience and help other women. One thing that really upsets me and really makes me mad is how so many women are ashamed of breast cancer, and how they feel like they're not themselves, and how much they rely on their physical attributes to identify with themselves. I refuse to do that. I'm not ashamed one bit, and I don't think anybody else should be ashamed. I think it's something that people need to be aware of. How many lives can be changed, you know, and saved if they would just not be ashamed of it? Because it does affect the relationship between a husband and a wife. I mean, there's just no denying that. And my husband told me and reassured me. He said, you know what? He said, I would do without those any day. He said, I have my wife, and I'm thankful for having my wife. He said, I don't miss that. I'm thankful that I have my wife. And that's what has kept me going, you know. He didn't, you know, focus on these. He focused on me. And that's what makes a difference. If it means that other women don't have to be ashamed of it, I'm not ashamed of it, and I just hope that by being me, who I am now, you know, might help other women realize that there's nothing to be ashamed of, just so much to be grateful for and to be happy for. It hasn't been easy for my girls, but because they're watching me, and as their mother and their biggest role model, I want them to see that they have strength, that they can get through whatever life throws at them. And it's going to make them aware to take care of themselves, to make healthy choices, to have regular checkups and all of that. And, you know, not to judge themselves on their physical appearance. It's what's inside that counts, and that's the message I want my girls to learn. I would have missed birthdays, and I would have missed all of the good events and bad events. I would have missed giving them advice. I would have missed my husband and taking care of him. I would have missed everything, absolutely everything. There's not one thing that isn't precious. Whether it's a lazy day, sleeping in, or if it's a busy day at work. There have been so many things that have happened in the past year that I would have missed. Whether it's making new friends or helping somebody, there's just so many things. I wouldn't be able to focus on one thing I would have missed, or two things for that matter. It would have been every day. Every day just looks wonderful. Last night there was this beautiful break in the clouds in the rain, and it looked like a masterpiece artwork. And I actually did not get in the car to go home. I stood outside of my car in the parking lot watching it. It was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it sounds silly, it sounds like a Hallmark card, but it's the truth. It really is the truth. Just beautiful moments. Everything, big and little, it doesn't matter. I would have missed the food. I mean, I finally had a real lobster tail. I mean, just beautiful, wonderful, big, huge lobster. I'd never had one before. It was always just frivolous. I'm not going to waste my money. Shrimp is just fine, you know. I had lobster. Oh my gosh, you know, check that off my to-do list. I mean, and it was good. I wouldn't spend the money again, but it was good, you know. There's just so many things that you put off someday. You can't put off to someday. Do it now. And when your list starts getting short, add to it. It's never too late. Add to your list. Keep it going. Because as long as that list is there, you have a purpose. Number 1, get your checkups. There are so many resources available. If you don't have insurance, if you don't have a good support group, there's just too much information. There's too many resources to say that you didn't know. Everybody, every woman must take care of themselves. Don't wait for a disaster to make you realize how valuable life is. Every day is a gift. Every day is precious, and you don't want to miss any of it because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Everybody's going to die. We know this. But you don't have to speed it up. You have to appreciate what you have because you could be here for, you know, another 50 years. Yes, you might go tomorrow, but you know what? It might not be 50 years. Make them good years. And if it's tomorrow, make this the best day that you can. But get your mammograms. Get your checkups. Do self-exams. I didn't. If I had, I might have caught it even sooner. But I was afraid. Do not let fear stand in your way because fear is just that. It's an imagination. Yes, things might happen, but you have strength to get you through it. Every woman has strength. You just have to tap into it. Even if it's on your own. Or if you have 50 people to support you. But there's help out there, there's resources, there are doctors that care. There's too many people out there that care because every life is important. Every life is important, and breast cancer does not care how much money you make. Breast cancer doesn't care if you're beautiful. Breast cancer doesn't care if you're a mom or a grandma or a daughter. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't care. It will attack anybody that it chooses to. And the best defense is a good offense. Prevention is number 1. Early detection, number 1. You have to be ready for it, and you have to look for it, and you have to protect yourself, and you have to do what's necessary, and you can't be afraid. I met a lady at the same time that I was going through this, and let me tell you, when we were in the hospital room talking to each other, she looked just like me lying in bed that I had looked like a few weeks before. And we cried together and we talked about it. She had the same problem that I had. She had insurance, and she also had a beautiful Mercedes and a beautiful home. I did not know that until after we had cried together and talked together. We never exchanged names, but we just talked to each other and supported each other and shared our stories. And it wasn't until later that I found out who this woman was. I was amazed and I was humbled because I realized it doesn't matter if you have no insurance like me and a 9-to-5 job, or if you are wealthy and have everything at your fingertips. It doesn't matter. The feelings are the same. Life is the same. It does not matter. Personally, the foundation has helped me because at the time I was not able to afford it. All my health services were provided to me, And that is something that I will never be able to repay unless I win the lottery. But I would not be able to, I wouldn't be able to repay that. Not emotionally, not financially. It just really supplied me with everything that I needed to get through this. It was just fantastic. Professionally, it's made me aware of how important it is to continue with the development, continue with research, continue finding people to support it, whether it be volunteering if you don't have the money to contribute, or if you have a business or any way that you can help support it and fund it, whether it's through the Relay for Life or buying a magnet or, you know, just a cup holder at Walmart. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can support it through volunteering and business. And I try my best, and I hope that in the future and as time goes on, I'll be able to give back any way that I can. If I can help just one person, then that's, you know, one person.